Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel for another Star Wars Mandalorian video. This next series I'm going to be talking about on the page is just my kind of review and breakdown of the whole first season of The Mandalorian. I will go episode by episode, kind of giving a recap and breakdown of each scene, kind of talk about what my thoughts on each episode were. So let's start off with episode 1. We start on an ice planet with the Mandalorian holding a trekking fob. So the Mandalorian stumbles into this bar, and these two guys are attacking this creature, this person kind of creature that has like a blue fish face. I don't know what species he is. And the guys kind of yell at the Mandalorian to get out of there, So, again, the guy kind of tells the Mandalorian to take off, and the Mandalorian goes up to the bar, and the guy says, "You spilled my drink." So the bartender tries to calm everybody down, and he gets the other guy his drink again, and the Mandalorian stops the drink as it slides down the bar, and he fights off the two guys. So the first guy is just a human, but he talks in a different species. And then the other guy is a Quarren. So for those of you that don't know what a Quarren is, they have a colony underseas, along with the same species that Admiral Akbar is. And they kind of bickered back and forth during the Clone Wars and had a fight, but they eventually made peace. So anyways, the Mandalorian kills the first guy, and then as the Quarren is trying to leave, he shoots kind of like a zip line tie to him, kind of wraps him up like a cowboy would in the Old West, and starts pulling him back towards him. And the Quarren shoots at the Mandalorian, and it hits his Beskar, his armor, and basically doesn't do anything. And then the Mando shoots the gate entrance and basically slices the guy in half. So the guy in the blue fish guy, he thanks the Mandalorian, for saving him, and says, you can take my credits. And the Mandalorian then shows him the bounty puck. And, he asks, "Oh, this is a mistake," So, and then that's the first lines we see from the Mandalorian is he says, "I can bring you in warm." And then he touches his gun and says, "Or I can bring you in cold." And I thought that was like a great first sentence for him to say, like, just calm, collective, cool. So he starts bringing him back to his ship, and they're about to go on a speeder that is manned by an R2 unit. And the Mando says, "No droids." And we actually have a character that is the same species as the spy in episode 4 that tells on Han and Luke and all them as they're leaving Tatooine. And he says, "I assure you it's in mint condition, brand new." And the Mando flips him a credit and says, "No droids." And this other speeder comes up with a man, and the speeder's kind of a piece of crap. So they're on their way back to the ship, and the Mando flips the guy a couple credits and says, "Be careful out here. You don't know what's out here." And the guy starts leaving, and he's eaten by an ice creature, which we don't really know what that is. And so he's on his way, and all of a sudden, this creature comes up and gnaws on the Razor Crest, the Mandalorian's ship. So they're about to take off, and he's almost full thrusters, and he pulls out this other kind of sniper rifle looking weapon. And at the end, it's got like 2 prongs on it, and he goes and shocks this creature. I thought that was pretty cool. So at first I thought it was just kind of like like how the Magna Guards had their electro staffs. I thought it was going to be kind of like that, and then maybe just shoot some bullets out of it too. So then the Mando flies to the planet Navarro. So Navarro is kind of his homeworld planet. And he goes into the bar to Grief Karga and lays all the tracking fobs and pucks on the table and basically tells him he got all the jobs done. So he says, Grief Karga says he can pay him in Imperial credits, and the Mando says, I don't know if you've noticed, but the Empire's gone. And Karga says they still spend, and the Mando basically takes the tracking fobs back, and Karga says, don't make a scene. And he says he can pay him in calamari flan, but he can only pay him half. So the Mando takes it, and he asks for another job. So Grief Karga tells him a bunch of different jobs, and the Mando says he'll take them all, but Karga says he can't give them to him because there's other guild members. So the Mando wants to take the highest job, and the highest job paid out, I think it was 5,000 credits, and he says that's barely enough for fuel these days. So, and then Karga says there is one other job, and he says it's straight face-to-face direct contact. And so he takes, Karga gives him a location to go meet this person, and he goes and walks in, and there's a bunch of stormtroopers, like 3 or 4 or 5 of them. And he starts talking to this man who's called the Client. We don't know his first name. He's just called the Client. And this other character walks out. His name's Dr. Pershing. And he kind of startles the Mandalorian, and the Mandalorian pulls out his blaster and his sniper rifle and points them at all the stormtroopers. And one of the stormtroopers says, we have you 4-1. And the Mando says, I like those odds. I thought that was pretty funny. That was a good scene. And so they discuss and talk, and the Client says he can only give him the age of the person he wants them to wants the Mando to find. So he tells him that he's 50 years old and that he wants him to try to bring him in alive, but he understands that bounty hunting is a complicated profession, and if he brings him in dead, that's okay too. But Dr. Pershing says he wants him alive. And one of the things about Dr. Pershing that I found, that somebody found that I saw that was pretty interesting, is on Pershing's jacket that he was wearing, there's a patch. And the patch had the same emblem as one of the patches of the clones on Camino. So one can infer that Dr. Pershing is a cloner. So the Mando is getting ready to take off, and the Client gives the Mando it's like a rectangle piece of Beskar. He says, this is your down payment. There'll be more when you bring the Client to me. So he brings his Beskar chip to the Mandalorians underground in Navarro. And there's kind of like an alpha Mandalorian. She forges all the armor for all the Mandalorians down there. And every time we see the Mandalorian go to get new armor forged, we get a flashback. And the first flashback is of him kind of running through his town where he used to live as a child. And his parents throw him in a bunker because they're being attacked by the droids of the Separatist army. So the Mando gets a new shoulder plate, and he's off to Arvala 7. That's the planet where he needs to find his bounty. So he's looking around on the planet as he lands, and he sees some creatures off in the distance. And all of a sudden, this creature attacks him, kind of like the Tusken Raiders did to Luke. So he shoots his fire at them out of one of his wrists. And all of a sudden, this creature gets shot from the distance. And then another one comes to attack him, and that one gets shot. And we see an Ugnaught, which is one of the creatures from episode 5 that melts all the metal down on Bespin. We see this man come up to the Mando and says, "You're a Mandalorian." And he says, "I will help you." So he takes him back to his place and talks to him about how everybody who's come through here before has died, and the Mando doesn't know if he wants his help. And he says, "I will help you." And then he asks, "What's your cut?" And the Ugnaught says, "Half." And the Mando thinks half of the money, and the Ugnaught says, "No, half the blurg." So those are the creatures that attack the Mando. And the Mando says, "You can have all of them." And he's not sure. He's going to try to leave on foot, but it's unable. You can't cross the terrain on foot. You have to travel on a blurg. So the Ugnaught teaches the Mando how to ride a blurg, basically kind of chirps him and says, "Your people rode the great mythosaur." And that's the actual logo on Boba Fett's shoulder. So he figures out how to ride a blurg, and he's off on his way to the sanctuary. And he's kind of searching through his binocs, and all of a sudden he sees an IG unit. So this IG unit is part of the guild, and he starts attacking, and the Mando comes up, and the IG shoots the Mando. Doesn't kill him. And the Mando tells him, he's working on this job too, and that they can split the job together. So they end up fighting a bunch of these guys, and the Mando uses the tracking fob, and he sees that the bounty is behind one of the walls, one of the doors. So they're kind of stuck in a stalemate, and IG-11's trying to self-destruct because his owner's protocol says that he can't be captured. But what happens is IG-11 draws all the fire, and the bad guys basically brought out like a big machine gun that were shooting at him. And he fights them off, and the Mando steals the machine gun and kills everybody, and then uses the machine gun to open the door. So they open the door, and they see this floating spherical kind of cradle. And the Mando opens it, and we see a baby Yoda. They're the same species as Yoda. Everybody calls him Baby Yoda, so we don't know what his name is yet. And when I first saw that, I was like, holy crap, there's more than, two in this species. So I've talked about in previous episodes, we have Yoda, obviously the most well-known of this species, and then Yaddle, which was the girl version of Yoda. She was on the Jedi Council in episode 1, and then we don't know what happened to her afterwards. So the Mando says we're going to take him back to Navarro, and IG-11 basically says, no, we need to terminate him immediately. And then all of a sudden we get a gunshot, and everybody's thinking, oh no, IG-11 shot Baby Yoda, when it was actually the Mando shot IG-11 and killed him. And that's the end of the episode. So I really liked this first episode. I thought it was very interesting. I liked how we had kind of a couple of Easter eggs in there, like the blurg scene when he gets attacked, kind of like the Tusken Raider scene, like I was saying. Um, and I think it was a good first episode. I'd probably give it a 7.9, 8.1, somewhere in that range. Um, so yeah, uh, that's what I got for the first episode. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Remember to hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching today, guys.